In 2021, roughly 3 years ago from the moment I'm recording this audio, I made my first Angry Birds Iceberg video. It was the first time I made a deep dive into a series on an Iceberg format, and Angry Birds was just a perfect fit. It's a series I've been familiar for pretty much my entire life, and that Iceberg didn't do justice at all. It was pretty small, it lacked some content, and I didn't go pretty deep. I already had announced that I was working on a new Iceberg in 2022, but the project was shelved just because of lack of time. And finally, I have time, so I present to you all the Ultimate Angry Birds Iceberg Part 1. An iceberg that's not the double, but the triple of the size of the first one, with an abundance of entries, with over 300 facts about Angry Birds. This series will be divided into 3 parts, making it the trilogy of the Angry Birds Iceberg, with roughly 100 entries per part. Also a quick notice that this Iceberg is more focused on the original games and the movies, so don't expect a Netflix series or something more modern. This is more focused on the stuff I grew up on. Let's not waste any more time, let's get into the ultimate Angry Birds Iceberg. Let's start off with the sky, just a little warm-up round before we get into the real stuff. Rovio. Founded in 2003 in Finland by Niklas Head, Jarno Vakevainen, and Kim Dickert, sorry if I butchered those names, this is the company that created the Angry Birds franchise back in 2009. Since the beginning, Rovio made various mobile games, but unfortunately, none of them met their success until they released the original Angry Birds. Ever since, Rovio has been a giant on the mobile gaming industry, even when they fell a couple of times. Angry Birds Seasons. Angry Birds Seasons was the second game of the Angry Birds series. It released in 2010, and this game is just like the original Angry Birds, but with each episode featuring a different holiday or season. The game released many updates, each one bringing a new episode or season, until its final update on May 2018. And in 2019, the game was delisted from the App Store and Google Play Store, and has no signs of coming back. This is also my favorite Angry Birds game, so I would appreciate it if the game came back. Mighty Eagle. The Mighty Eagle was first introduced in 2010 as a purchasable power-up on the original Angry Birds. To use it, you had to throw a tuna can onto the structures, and then the Mighty Eagle would appear and wipe up completely everything. It was a little expensive at first, but I think there were some free levels that let you use it. Ever since its introduction, the Mighty Eagle has been a series staple, even made an appearance on the Angry Birds movie, portrayed by Peter Dinklage. Now that's a high-tier casting. Rovio Classics. Rovio Classics is a name given to a series of re-releases of old Angry Birds games. And how many games are in this series? Just one, Rovio Classics Angry Birds, a re-release of the original 2009 game. It released on March 31st, 2022, and it was delisted from the App Store and Google Play Store in 2023, and that also came with a new name for the app, Red's First Flight. This game was supposedly the first of many, but Rovio backed down on the statement and discarded the whole plan. This entry might be on the sky nowadays, but as years pass, I can see this falling all the way underwater. It's just a question of time. Plushies. Like every other big franchise, Angry Birds has gotten countless plushies over the years, spanning different series and games. The most popular plush set is the one from Commonwealth from the early 2010s. This company manufactured Angry Birds plushies until the mid-2010s, around the time the Angry Birds movie released. We've gotten plushies from the original, season, space, Star Wars, and much more. In most recent years, the original set has been reprinted by Mighty Mojo, another manufacturer. My childhood dream was to get the giant Mighty Eagle, but since they didn't sell them on physical stores and only on angrybirds.com and Amazon, I never got it. But now with the reprint, I didn't get it too. See, some things never change. #BringBack2012. In April 2019, Rovio delisted some of their classic Angry Birds games from mobile stores. And some of the games include the original, Seasons, Rio, Space, Star Wars 1 and 2, Go, and Epic. The removal was terrible, and I speak for everyone when I say that nobody liked it. For licensed games such as Rio and Star Wars, I get that, maybe the license expired. But when you remove the original, the game that saved your company from bankruptcy and got it popular in the first place, it's unacceptable. After this whole fiasco, the fans launched a movement labeled Bring Back 2012, with the intention of getting the original games back in some form. For 2 years, the fans' cries weren't answered, but in 2021, Rovio released a statement saying that they removed the games because, well, they just weren't compatible with newer hardware. Seems legit. But then you know the rest, they promised that the games would return but only one did and pulled from the store 1 year later. EvanTube HD. Started in 2011, EvanTube HD is a channel ran by, you guessed it, Evan, where he mainly reviews toys, stuff like Legos and such. But when he started, and where he first peaked, was with Angry Birds toys. Evan was the Angry Birds guy on YouTube. He wasn't the only kid doing Angry Birds toys reviews, but he was, by far, the biggest. I remember back in 2012 I used to watch his videos about Angry Birds space plushes or Angry Birds mashems. Yeah, remember those? EvanTube HD is a channel that hits close to home, to be honest. I know he recently retired like a few months ago to focus on his own career, but man, it was like one of the few channels that I'm aware of where we saw a 6-year-old kid grow up all the way to an adult, until channels like Ryan's Toys Reviews get there, but it's not the same. Evan was the first one. Golden Eggs. The classic Angry Birds had special golden eggs throughout the whole game. It could be on levels, on the level select screen, on the credits, on the home screen, they were everywhere. And inside those golden eggs, we had special levels that were nothing like the main game. Come on, one red bird versus a pile of pigs? Also, we had some ones that were completely different. I remember one of them you had to play a certain pattern with bird, pig and structure sounds. Angry Birds movies. Like any other big video game franchise, Angry Birds has a movie duology, soon to be trilogy, made by Sony Animation. The first movie, the Angry Birds movie, released in June 2016 and it was a financial success. The critics didn't like it, but the fans loved it. In my eyes, I thought this was a step in the right direction for the game-based movies genre. The movie tells the story of Red, and he's angry, and then he meets the other birds, they're also angry, and then they destroy the castle and kill the pigs. Yeah, you get the idea. There's also Ian and Anthony from Smosh voicing Bubbles and Hal, and that was pretty funny.
Hey yo, that's the plug at the door!
The second Angry Birds movie, the Angry Birds Movie 2, released August 2019, and it was bad. It did okay financially, but man, not even the fans liked this one. I don't know, I'm just not a fan of the idea of the pigs and birds teaming up to defeat an evil that I've never seen in my life. The main problem that I see from this movie is how they distanced too much from the source material, and made whatever this is. They recently announced an Angry Birds Movie 3 earlier this year, and I don't know what to expect, really. But yeah, let's see how it goes. Toons. In 2013, Angry Birds Toons released to the masses, the very first Angry Birds cartoon. And this was very important to the franchise because 1. The games were finally hitting TV, and 2. This was the very first time where the birds were named. The names that you see, for example, in the movies, came from Angry Birds Toons. Toons was a very fun show, 5 to 10 minute skits of the characters doing some goofy ass shit or something. It was incredible. I first started watching it on YouTube and on Toons TV, an app that includes all of Toons, trailers, ads and much more Angry Birds related stuff. But then the show finally hit the television here in Portugal, and that was insane. And the best part is, as of August 2024, it still airs on Portuguese television. Yep, still here. Now we're moving over to the tip of the iceberg. It features more of the same, but with a few peculiar things that you probably don't know. Ads. Angry Birds has many ads everywhere, outdoors, indoors, on the game itself. Angry Birds is a perfect advertising machine, especially when kids love it. This is such a general topic that it's hard to put everything here, but don't worry, we'll continue to explore the world of Angry Birds ads further down on the iceberg. Speedruns. Like every other game in the world, Angry Birds has many speedruns. These obviously consist of finishing the entire game the fastest way possible. There's many stats online, probably even some exploits, but I was never interested in the speedrun scene of Angry Birds, so I don't know much about it. 2011. 2011 was arguably one of the best years for the franchise. We got a new game and the first ever collab game, Angry Birds Rio. We got a bunch of new episodes in Angry Birds seasons, and that included some favorite ones, such as Ogs and Kisses and Summer Picnic, and we got a new bird, the orange bird that later would be known as Bubbles. And above all that, the series was at its peak. Rovio was making a name for itself in the industry. I think the only year that was better than 2011 was 2012 and maybe 2013, but that's debatable. Angry Birds Reloaded. This is a game launched in June 2021 exclusively for the Apple App Store. It's just like a classic Angry Birds game, but with a twist. Enhanced visuals, new characters, new enemies, and more. Although most of the new characters are just from the second movie, don't be fooled. As of now, the game is still constantly getting new updates, but who knows, Rovio will probably give up on this one just like the rest. Matilda's gender change. Matilda, aka the White Bird, prior to Angry Birds Toons looked like this, but after 2012, she started looking like this, and most people assume that Rovio changed their gender. To be honest, I really think that's not the case. I think the old games and the original design explicitly said that she's a chicken and lays eggs. You can't piece the two together. Ari Polkanen. Ari Polkanen is a Finnish musician and composer, and his most famous work is the Angry Birds theme. He's the one that composed the classic Angry Birds theme song that we all love and some other songs from the original game soundtrack. Duolingo. In early 2020, Angry Birds partnered up with Duolingo, and that partnership brought us Red on the Duolingo app and the Duolingo spell on Angry Birds 2. The spell, when launched, make eggs rain from the sky down to the structures. Nothing special. Unbreakable eggs. On the original Angry Birds, in certain levels there's an egg or eggs inside the structures, for example 321. Why am I saying this? Well, it doesn't matter how many times you try to break them, they're indestructible, so you can wipe out your whole thing and the eggs will still be there. Sega. April 17th, 2023, possibly one of the weirdest days for an Angry Birds fan. Sega officially agreed on buying Rovio for $706 million. This was a shock. Since this is pretty recent, there's still not been any new projects that I should talk about, but yeah, Rovio now is owned by Sega. Shocker. Angry Birds Facts. This is an account dedicated to post about facts from the Angry Birds franchise on the social media Twitter. You thought I was calling it X, nobody calls it X. This account has been around since 2020, and in the end of 2023 they actually stopped posting new facts. It was responsible for archiving many stuff about Angry Birds. One of the best things that has happened to the franchise in years, even if it's not official and it was only ran by fans of the series. King Pig Golden Egg. The Golden King Pig level, or Pig Panic, is a special level included on the original Angry Birds. However, this level was only available on iOS, Android, PC and BlackBerry Play Books Q and X. This is by far one of the hardest golden eggs to unlock in the game. In order to get it, you had to get 3 stars on every single level from poached eggs all the way to birthday day. Or you could just spend $20 on a King Pig activity toy to unlock it. But you might be asking, what was the deal with this level? What's the shtick? This level is a collection of 4 mini-games. The first one is King Pig, where the birds turn into pigs and the pigs turn into eggs. It's basically just regular Angry Birds but with swapped rules. In Material Mix-Up, the building materials get swapped with one another. Bird Frenzy is just Angry Birds with unlimited birds, and in Total Destruction you don't use the birds at all, just tap the screen to create explosions and destroy the buildings. A neat little extra, for sure. Original Trailer. This entry is referring to the original Angry Birds trailer released in 2009. This trailer shows gameplay of the game and showcases each ability of the birds. This is not the only time we'll discuss about this trailer on the Iceberg. Return of the classic games. In 2021, Rovio started hinting that the old games previously delisted from the App Store would return. Rio, Seasons, Go, they were coming back. One of them even came back, Angry Birds Classic. Everything was leading to the return of the other games, but as we all know, that didn't happen. Angry Birds Classic was deleted once again and Rovio cancelled the other games. We just can't get nice things, unfortunately. Unboxing Angry Birds. This is a nostalgic video uploaded by Android MX in 2011. This video consists of an unboxing of a ton of bootleg Angry Birds plushes, paired with other random merchandising. Oh, and androids. This video is very nostalgic to me because I remember rewatching this video so many times. And hey, the video is currently over 2 million views, so you've probably already seen it. Old Level Complete. Angry Birds has received numerous level complete screens, 3 to be exact, only in the original. We first had this one introduced in version 1.0 with this yellow and cyan design. Later in version 1.4.2 they updated the design. And finally, the screen received its final update in version 2.0.0, released late 2011. And this design would later be used in future games such as Angry Birds Seasons, Rio, Space, Star Wars and more. On the topic of the level complete screen, did you know there's an extended version of the level complete theme? Take a listen. Old Pig Texture. Prior to 2011 and the release of Angry Birds Chrome, the pig sported an older, different look. This design was introduced in the original Angry Birds and was used on Angry Birds Seasons and other versions of the original game from 2010 and early 2011. With the release of Angry Birds Chrome, these designs became the new normal. Funky Seam. The Funky Seam is a song heard in one of the Golden Egg levels and old promotional videos, such as the cinematic trailer for Angry Birds Classic, and apparently it was supposed to be the theme song for Angry Birds, before we got the new one we know today. It was composed by Ari Polkanen, and it's a song that not many people talk about, so here's to the Funky Seam. Angry Birds Nest. The Angry Birds Nest is a website created in 2014 by the fans for the fans. According to them, they're the go-to place for walkthroughs, news, and much more, so make sure to check it out sometime. Angry Birds Halloween. This is the original name for Angry Birds Seasons. When the game released in October 2010, the only episode they had was Halloween themed, so why not name it Angry Birds Halloween? However, this version of the game was short-lived, because in December we got Seasons Greetings, a Christmas themed episode, so from that point on, this game would be known as Angry Birds Seasons. Smooth Cheeks in the Angry Birds movie. Smooth Cheeks is the name given to the toon's incarnation of the King Pig, and in early concepts of the Angry Birds movie, they were considering using Smooth Cheeks as the main bad instead of Leonard, but it never made it past the concept stage. Abandoned Ports. This is referring to some ports of Angry Birds Classic that stopped being supported at some point of time. Angry Birds HD, Angry Birds Lite, and the PC version are some examples. Angry Birds Candy. Around 2012, Rovio partnered up with Feather Confectionery Limited to create Angry Birds Candy. These resemble the birds, eggs, pigs, and blocks, so you could use your imagination and make your own builds. They even had their own packaging. For example, we had a red packaging, a chuck one, multiple packaging for the pigs, and much more. In 2013, these candies were the center of controversy, because Feather started inserting chocolate with the candies in the same packaging accidentally, so they later apologized. I mean, if I saw chocolate and gummies all in the same sack, I would be fine by that, it's a win-win, but that's just me. Angry Birds Comics. Angry Birds Comics was a series of comics distributed by EDW Publishing. It ran from 2014 all the way to 2017. The series had in total 31 comics, spanning from the toon's design to the movie designs in the end. And surprisingly, it wasn't the only comic series of Angry Birds, but we'll get into that. Dave77748. Dave77748 was a YouTube channel famous for its Angry Birds animations. It had such classics as The Uber Pig, Back and to School, and Pig Factory. Yeah, these were quite simple animations, nothing special, but certainly many people, mostly kids in the early 2010s, watched this. The most viewed video on the channel has over 28 million views. The channel's last upload was in 2020, so it's currently inactive. Angry Birds Kids videos. Like any other children's property, there's bound to be many cheaply made kids videos on the internet, and Angry Birds is no exception. Go ahead, search for Angry Birds Kids videos. You might find some normal, some weird, or just plain bizarre. Most of them consist of playthroughs of knockoff Flash games, weird animations, very weird animations, and of course, official material. Not as bad as Elsagate, but odd. Angry Birds was paid. Yes, when the original Angry Birds released for the Apple App Store in 2009, it was paid. You had to pay $4.99 at launch to play Angry Birds. Later the price went down and then ultimately it became free. Now we are moving over to below the surface. Beware of the cold waters and don't catch a cold. Soft drinks. To truly start the iceberg and its depths, we have Angry Birds soft drinks. Olvi, a Finnish soft drinks manufacturer, decided to release Angry Birds soft drinks in 2012. 8 flavors were available: Tropic, Paradise, Lagoon, Comet, Tropic Cola, Amazon, Diamond, and Sunrise, with the last 2 being plastic bottles instead of cans. Angry Birds Chrome. This was a free version of Angry Birds exclusive to Google Chrome. Released in 2011, this game reutilized many levels from Angry Birds Classic and Seasons, but it still didn't take the magic away from playing Angry Birds in a web browser. This game was also responsible for implementing the new pig designs I mentioned prior. Unfortunately, the game was discontinued and shut down in 2015. DeviantArt. Well, we all know DeviantArt is the realm of all things kinky, and there's a lot of Angry Birds fetish art on the platform. I won't elaborate further. Back to School. This is the 13th episode in Angry Birds Seasons. It was released on August 2012, and it's an episode focused on the Back to School theme. It consists of 20 levels and it was the debut episode of the Pink Bird, aka Stella. She made her first appearance in this episode. With this new season, an animation also released on the Angry Birds YouTube channel for Stella's debut. Angry Birds Volcano. Also known as Angry Birds Turkish Kebab, this was an online game similar to Angry Birds Coca-Cola and Cheetos, but to play it, you had to obtain a code that came with Fuzzer Volcano, a candy made by Fuzzer who I mentioned earlier. It only features 6 levels and it's available to play. Season Soundtrack. The Season's OST is no doubt the best in the series. It features more than 30 songs, but they're all the same. Yes, the entire soundtrack is just a classic Angry Birds theme, but, of course, with different instruments and arrangements to fit the seasons. Altered levels. In Angry Birds 2, sometimes when you replay a level, the structures may not look the same as last time, but the difficulties remain the same. Rovio made a statement on why they made this decision, but I guess it's a neat addition. Angry Birds. Angry Birds is a cancelled farming sim and visual novel game made by Rovio. The game followed distorted versions of the birds living in a farm. During development, the game was called Angry Birds Farmageddon and it was cancelled somewhere around 2015. For April Fools that same year, Rovio released a trailer for the game on their YouTube channel. They intended this to be an April Fool's prank since the game was cancelled, but there were still people believing it was still coming. Angry Birds similarities. Looking at the Angry Birds and Angry Birds movie designs side by side, we can notice some similarities. The chunkier designs, humanoid limbs and human proportions, these two designs have a lot in common, but I believe it was just a coincidence on Rovio's part. Angry Birds Homescapes. Around 2020, Rovio launched an ad for Angry Birds 2 on YouTube, and the commercial is clearly just a Homescapes ripoff, another famous mobile game. Many people were not happy, and rightfully so. It's sad to see Rovio being so desperate at the point where they are just false advertising because, in case you don't know, this has absolutely nothing to do with the actual game. This is not okay. Unstable levels. I'm guessing unstable levels are those levels where the big structures just become unstable after a bird hits the building. An example for this is 5-6 from the original Angry Birds. Angry Birds in Wonderland. What this entry is referring to is probably Angry Birds Winter Wonderland, a campaign ran by Rovio and Samsung to promote the new Samsung Galaxy Note in December 2011. In their official website for the campaign, you had an exclusive Angry Birds level, an animation for the promotion, 3 special e-cards and a new game, Angry Birds Advent Challenge. This new game had similarities to a game called The Jeweled, but using Angry Birds characters. After the website shut down and the promotion came to a close, the game became unplayable, but the animation I mentioned earlier can still be viewed on YouTube. Lite version. Angry Birds Lite was a free demo of the game that could be downloaded on the App Store from 2010 to 2011, before it was replaced by Angry Birds Free that did the exact same thing. The demo featured the first 12 levels, and after you completed all of them, the game encouraged you to buy the full game. Normal demo stuff. Samsung levels. To promote the new Samsung Galaxy Note, Rovio partnered up with Samsung to release exclusive levels for Angry Birds Space. Or should I say, one level. During this promotion, the episode Danger Zone was available for free for Samsung levels only, but that was only for 3 months. Mighty Dragon. The Mighty Dragon is a mythical creature that made its first appearance with the Year of the Dragon update for Angry Birds Seasons back in 2011. It functions similarly to the Mighty Eagle. You throw a red koi fish to the structures instead of a tuna can, and then the Mighty Dragon appears soaring to the sky and leaving massive destruction behind. Sadly, aside from this game, the Mighty Dragon never made a second appearance. Mods. Like every other popular game, Angry Birds has many mods. It can be from Go, Star Wars or space. There's a lot of mods for Angry Birds. Me personally, I'm not into the mod scene, but I'm sure there's some neat things to find in mods. Lost Web Games. We're getting to Lost Media territory now, so you know it's gonna be a good one. Around the early 2010s, Rovio made a multitude of variations of the original Angry Birds. Most of them were tie-in promotions and exclusives to a certain browser or social media. We managed to recover many. Angry Birds Chrome, Angry Birds Telepizza, and Angry Birds Cheetos are some examples. But unfortunately there's still some that are currently lost, or just not confirmed to exist. Currently, according to the Lost Media Wiki, there's 6 lost web games and 2 with existence unconfirmed, and that includes Angry Birds Opera and Angry Birds Hot Wheels Mashup. Now that are lost, we have Angry Birds Flash, Angry Birds Google+, Angry Birds Skills, and more. Swine Flu. Funnily enough, during the development of Angry Birds in 2009, the team still didn't have an idea of what the enemy would be. But because it's 2009 and the swine flu was hitting big time, the team took inspiration from the swine flu to create the iconic green pigs that we all know and love. Super Seeds. The Super Seeds, now Power Potion, were the very first ability implemented on an Angry Birds game, excluding Mighty Eagle and the Mighty Dragon. It released in 2012 and once activated, your bird would grow twice their normal size. It was a neat idea, but as I mentioned earlier, it's now called Power Potion, but it still does the same thing. Bad Piggy's Best Egg Recipes. This is a book that collects various egg recipes made by the pigs. Only egg recipes and egg-related stuff are present. Later an app of the book was launched on the App Store. It was just an ebook in form of an app. It later got removed in 2015. Toons TV. This was an app and streaming service launched in March 2013. This app offered many Angry Birds content to watch, Angry Birds Toons, Angry Birds Stella, Piggy Tales, and also many third-party programming, like The Annoying Orange, Shaun the Sheep, and even Ozzy and the Cockroaches. The service later shut down in 2017. Ruby. Ruby is an unplayable bird that made her first appearance in promotional material for the episode Hogs and Kisses on Angry Birds Seasons. She looks exactly like Red, but with eyelashes and a yellow bow. Many people begged Rovio to add her as a playable character, but as of now, it still hasn't happened yet. At least we got an official plush. Angry Birds Rap. This is a rap song made by B-Shap in 2011. The song was really popular back in the day, generating millions of views, but recently I haven't seen many people talk about it, so that's why it's here. Chinese version. Did you know there's a version of the original Angry Birds exclusive to China? Me neither. It released in 2017 and it features many changes from the international versions. Over there they have exclusive episodes and even power-ups. However, they don't have the levels that we all know. This version just has those 7 exclusive Chinese themed episodes, and that's it. Kind of a lame release, to be honest. Big Bork. This is a type of pig that was first introduced in Angry Birds Space. It's just a big pig with spots, just like Terrans. He made 2 more appearances after Space, which were on Piggy Tales and Angry Birds Friends, and that's it. We haven't seen this character since. Alex Bird. This is a fan-made bird made by Alex R2012 on Scratch and DeviantArt in 2014. This character is a big meme on the community, mainly because it radiates kids' DeviantArt energy. This is more of a self-insert OC made by Alex, but because of the image's resurgence on the 2020s, the original account and post were deleted by the man himself. Angry Birds Breakfast 1 and 2. Angry Birds Nestle, later known as Angry Birds Breakfast, was a series of 3 Angry Birds games that you got through a promotion with Nestle. The first 2 parts came in CD-ROMs and are fairly easy to access nowadays. We'll later touch on the third part down on the Iceberg. Angry Birds Flash. This was a game that ran on, you guessed it, not Snapchat, but Flash. The game was announced in 2011 with an early demo that was only playable in the event that was announced. The game never released, being cancelled in favor of Angry Birds Friends that released later the next year. The game build and the demo are currently lost. Golden Island. This is a location within the Angry Birds world. It's also where Angry Birds Stella takes place. Aside from Stella games and cartoons, this location has never returned since. Angry Birds Magic. Also known as Angry Birds Free with Magic, this game only released on Nokia C7 and Nokia N9 devices in 2011. The main gimmick of the game is that it uses NFC technology by overlapping 2 Nokia devices with one another. The game features 45 levels, but most of them are from Angry Birds Free with some exclusives thrown around in there. Angry Birds Star Wars Facebook. This is a version of Angry Birds Star Wars that released in 2012. It features the Tatooine and Death Star episodes, plus weekly tournaments like Angry Birds Friends. And it has 3 unique power-ups, the Blaster Droid, the Clone Bird, and the Lightsaber Sling. This game later shut down in 2014. Scrapped games. Like any other game series, Angry Birds has a lot of scrapped games that never got out. There's Angry Birds Social, Angry Birds Island, Angry Birds Rock in Rio, Angry Birds Tennis, Angry Birds Dice, Angry Birds Football, and Angry Birds Legends. There's a vast list of cancelled Angry Birds games, and it makes sense. Most of these games came from the experimental phase in the mid-2010s, where Rovio was trying to make something new, the same way we got Angry Birds Go. Angry Birds Facebook. This was the original name of Angry Birds Friends in early 2012 when it released. It later changed to Angry Birds Friends the same year. Ross is the main character. Yes, he is the main character of the game Bad Piggies. Angry Birds Seasons animations. Through the course of 4 years, Rovio made special animations for Angry Birds Seasons for when a new episode released in the game, and they were posted on their YouTube channel. Year of the Dragon, Halloween, Wreck the Hall, Summer Picnic. So many episodes had these cool animations made by talented people, and some of these continue to be one of the best things I've seen from the series. However, around 2013 they became less frequent, and in 2014 they stopped completely with the On Thin Ice episode update. Zombie Pigs. This is a special kind of pigs that could be seen on Angry Birds Epic, some Angry Birds Stella levels, the Angry Birds Friends Halloween Tournament, Bad Piggies, and Angry Birds Seasons. Nothing more to add. Angry Birds Movie 2012. In 2011, Rooster Teeth launched a video titled Angry Birds Movie Trailer, the trailer for the supposed movie coming in 2012. That's what little kids thought it was. It's clearly just a skit made by Rooster Teeth. The trailer has almost nothing to do with Angry Birds, and it's just overall a pretty funny skit. It's very well made and I recommend checking it out. It's so surreal that a few years ago we thought that this was a joke, but then we actually got an Angry Birds movie. Simpler times. K'NEX. In 2012, Rovio partnered up with K'NEX, a toy company similar to LEGO, to release Angry Birds K'NEX sets. These sets featured a slingshot, one bird or more, and a structure with pigs. Not only they did classic, but also with space. I recall seeing Evan2 review some of these K'NEX sets and really wanting them, which I ended up getting. Friday Night Funkin' mod. Of course Angry Birds has mods in Friday Night Funkin'. I'm not a Friday Night Funkin' guy myself, so this isn't really my cup of tea. Angry Birds World Tour. Angry Birds World Tour was a gaming result of a partnership with Global Legal Entertainment, and it was published for the in-flight video entertainment in certain airlines. It released in 2016 and it's just regular Angry Birds gameplay, but now we go around the world this time. North America, Europe, the Middle East and Asia are the places we go in Angry Birds World Tour. Pretty cool. Angry Birds Space Trailer. This entry just refers to the official Angry Birds Space Trailer launched in 2012 on the Angry Birds YouTube channel. Not to be confused with the story trailer which showcases the story of the game. No, this is just a trailer showing some clips of the story trailer, some gameplay, and the response the game got from fans. This video currently sits with 8 million views. Shockwave Bomb. This is a transformation Bomb receives after a chemical reaction in the episode Short Fuse in the original Angry Birds. This form of bomb lets him create an explosion of electricity. Pretty handy. This transformation later made an appearance in some other games aside from the original. Postman Pig. This was a character that always made secret appearances in the early Angry Birds games, like an Easter egg. He sometimes appeared on the pause screen in select versions of old games. Nowadays, Rovio retired the character and it's been a while the last time we saw him. Oh, and he's also an inside joke in the community. I don't know why though. Fun Video TV. Now this is a good one. Fun Video TV was a YouTube channel that posted weird cheaty animations featuring stuff like Angry Birds and Plants vs Zombies. Similar to those Skibidi Toilet Friday Night Funkin' videos you find on YouTube Kids for greasy booger eating children to watch. But Fun Video TV was different. We had these crazy mashups that for 2012 standards were impressive. Angry Birds Gangnam Style was the shit back then, you just had to be there. However, this isn't the last time we'll touch on Fun Video TV, because further down the iceberg, we're gonna find some deep stuff about this channel. Mattel Toys. Mattel is a toy company founded in 1945 and they made many Angry Birds toys through the early 2010s. These include Knock on Wood and On Thin Ice, which were based on the original game, which I have both sets. On another set I have this one based on Angry Birds Space, which was pretty nice. This set updated the models with the chrome designs and we got Iceberg, which is a win. And the final set I own is Mega Smash, which is no doubt the best of the four with more birds and pigs. I only focus on the ones I have, but there's some crazy ones out there like Mega Fling and the Super Colossal Build-Up. Mighty Basketball. This is a weird one. On the Ham Dunk episode of Angry Birds Seasons, the Mighty Eagle is replaced by a Mighty Basketball and it's exactly what you think it is. A Giant Basketball. It works the same as a Mighty Eagle, but instead of you throwing a tuna can, it's a Spalding bag. Extremely obscure character that many forgot. Hockey Bird. Revealed in November of 2011, the Hockey Bird was a part of a collaboration between Rovio and NHL, and it was the official mascot of the 2012 IIHF Ice Hockey World Championship. It was launched exclusively to Angry Birds friends only 2 events in 2012 and 2014. His abilities in the game was the same as Chuck's, since he replaced him during the event. Many merchandising of this character included plushies were produced and now tend to be stupid expensive, since they're now collector's items. Good luck getting that hockey bird plush. Angry Birds VR. Angry Birds VR Isle of Pigs is a VR game that launched in 2019, and this game is based on the movie universe of Angry Birds. It's available on PS4, PS5, MetaQuest, Microsoft Windows and Android, and it's still up so you can still play it. But it's not the only VR game, we also got Angry Birds 2 Under Pressure, which is almost the same thing. HAL design changes. HAL, aka the Green Bird, is notorious for being the bird with the most design changes. Rovio just doesn't settle with one certain design. No, they made more than 6 design changes. From his weird prototype design that honestly doesn't look too bad, to his classic which is the best one and the definitive HAL, to his chrome design which is fine, to all the other design changes, but my favorite will always be the classic design and the Toons design. These I find more appealing than the rest. Angry Birds Go 2.0. This is an update that released to Angry Birds Go in 2017. This was a major update that changed everything for the worse to many people. The Toons design on the loading screen and in other images were replaced by the movie designs, the player and card select screens became soulless without the cute 3D scenery, Rovio decided to push way more microtransactions with new loot boxes you could buy, and so many other bad changes. Overall, the game became worse from one moment to another. Rovio really knows how to ruin the unruined. Bootleg games. Angry Birds had more than 1 billion downloads before its deletion on the App Store, and because of its popularity, it's natural that a ton of copies and bootlegs would invade the App Store. Around its peak there were tons of cheaply made copycat games that were the funniest shit. You wanted to play Angry Birds, but now, we only have Angry Cock in this house. I seriously need to ask if someone played this unironically. I need to know. Angry Birds Next. Apparently, Angry Birds Next is an upcoming cross-platform multiplayer Angry Birds game. Not much information about Angry Birds Next is available, since it's still in development and Rovio still hasn't released a trailer for it. But hopefully, it's coming. Update here. It's not looking too great. First of all, the game got renamed to Angry Birds Launch It, which is a pretty good name, and second of all, the studio behind the game actually shut down in 2023. Yeah, I don't think we're getting this game very soon. Epic Sex Pig. For our last entry on Tier 3, we have Epic Sex Pig, aka Trump Pig. This is a character that first appeared on Angry Birds Toons and also made some extra appearances in 2 other games. He's just a blonde pig with a saxophone and sunglasses. Pretty cool. Well, and that wraps up Tier 3 and the Ultimate Angry Birds Iceberg Part 1. This was a long one and a pretty darsh good one. I hope you enjoyed this Part 1 of the Angry Birds Iceberg trilogy. I'll be back for Part 2 hopefully in a couple of months. I'll keep you updated about the Iceberg on social media, so stay tuned. Until then, see you in Part 2 of the Ultimate Angry Birds Iceberg. Take care.